came back to Canada, and I was in Winnipeg, and my niece Tina was, how old was she? Must have been about 7 or 8, and she hadn't seen me for a long time. And so when I came back from Fiji and I landed in Winnipeg, I was staying with my cousin again, and then my niece was living here in the city with her dad, and so I called him up and said I'd like to see her. And he said, okay, well, and I remember it was Folklorama, so we went to the Friendship Center and I met them there, and it was dark, so we were outside, we were looking at the jiggers and stuff, and then we came inside to get something to eat, and my niece hadn't seen me at that point because it was dark, right? So I remember she was holding my hand and she goes, "Holy, are you ever dark?" Because of course I spent like how many months in Fiji just in the bright sun, and I just got really, really, really dark. And so I said, yeah, yes, I just spent like lots of time overseas. And she goes, wow. And the whole evening she just kept looking at me, and I guess I got used to my skin color because I didn't even think about it. And it wasn't until I came back to Canada that I was like, oh, I'm much, much, much darker. And then when I see pictures of myself back then, I was like, oh my goodness, my teeth look so white. So it's funny, like how you just get used to things. Like I got used to the rhythm of being in Fiji, how you, like they get up really early in the morning. They get up at 5 in the morning because the heat is really hot between 12 and 4. So they get most of their work done by 9 o'clock. And then we go gardening, and then we teach the kids, and we finish school at 12. And then the afternoons they siesta, so they sleep between maybe 1 and 3 or 2 and 4. So during that time, the whole community's quiet, right? And I remember the first two weeks I had to get used to that because I wasn't used to sleeping in the afternoon, and I'd get up and look around and everybody was sleeping except for me. So after a while I just started, getting myself to lay down and fall asleep, and then I come back to Canada, and it's a different life again, so I had to get back into the rhythm of staying awake all day. And so for me, like, that was a good experience because it really taught me to see how people live differently, and then it started to help me think about like how we lived as Aboriginal people and how our lives are with the rhythm of nature. And so when I think about that's just like a cultural thing. We have a different culture, but the culture that's here is a very dominant culture that has that 9 to 5 thinking, but we have the seasonal thinking, and we might not live the same way, but we still do things that allow us to keep living. And so, going to Fiji, and then so I was 22 when I went to Fiji, and I worked for a couple of years, and then I started university. And when I started university, like, my experiences in being in Fiji it opened my eyes to see to really understand my own culture. And then the conference in Morley helped me understand my own culture. So when I came to university, it was another way to look at my culture. So when I came here, I had no idea what I wanted to do, so I took sciences, and then I took Intro to Native Studies, and then what I learned in there was different from what I learned in Morley and what I learned in Fiji and what I started to process in my mind, and so everything just was different. And so I think that knowledge helped me gain more understanding about what it means to be an Aboriginal person and to understand our history, and it helped me understand my family better. And I always laugh at that because I had to come to university to really understand how the history has impacted us and families are so different and why our families are struggling, and at the same time I see the beauty of our culture. So it was a real struggle to find a balancing point, and I think that's why I didn't pass my first year, because it was just like I had to settle in my mind, even though I was hearing all these horrific stories about what we went through. I knew there was some beauty in our culture, and I wanted to search and find that. And I think for me, that's what all my life has been about, is searching and looking and finding the beauty in our culture and letting people know the beauty in our culture. Because we go through lots of trauma and we go through lots of hardships, but in that whole web of things, there's beauty in our culture, and there's goodness, and there's just a wealth of knowledge here that's still there. And like I said, I feel really blessed because I've been able to see that, and I experienced it at a young age, and I look at what the elders gave up so we could keep our culture, so we could be here today. And like, I don't speak my language, but I understand our teachings. I feel it in my heart, is where I feel it. And it's not just words, it's things that I have to put into practice every day. So that's what I try to learn from the elders, because I think of what I call the really good elders, that when they come to a conference, they stay from the beginning to the end, they don't leave. And to me, like, that's what I see when I see a good elder, is someone who's committed. They've made that commitment and they stay. And if they say they're going to do something, they do it. They don't just not show up. And just the way they give of themselves. And I think about that guy who gave up his 2 hours to sit there with this young girl that he didn't know. To me, that's like, he acted in an elder way, right? Like, he didn't know me, but he took his time from his day to be with me. And, he's a businessman, and he had a suit on. So I think about that, and if, like, what I know today, like, about business people, they're always in a rush, but this guy just wasn't like that. And I see our elders like that. They don't seem to be in a rush. They just sit and quietly say things to you, and sometimes they come out with this profound statement, and it's just a few words, and you're thinking, oh my God. There was this one friend of mine who likes to talk a lot. She can talk and talk and talk, and sometimes she doesn't stop. And I remember one time we were at the university, you could smoke in the restaurants and stuff, and this woman was talking, and this one elder was sitting with us, and he looks at her, takes a drag of smoke, and he goes, "Do you ever breathe?" And then he keeps smoking. And she just didn't say anything, and she was quiet for a bit. Then she kept on talking, and then after we left, she was walking with me, and she said, "What did so-and-so mean by that? Were they telling me I talk too much? When they said, do I ever breathe?" And I said, "Probably. They're saying, like, you're taking up lots of airspace, you're not letting other people talk, and then she goes, "Oh, I like the way he did that. He didn't reprimand me or anything. He just did it, so it made me stop and think." She says, "I like that. I really like that." And I just thought, that's really good. Like, she didn't get offended. She wasn't mad. She just stopped and she thought about it. And I just thought, that takes real skill to do that, to be able to give someone heck without embarrassing them, right? So, I think about stuff like that, and it's just, I'm totally amazed by, like, what I call really good elders, people that are committed, people that practice what they're taught. because one of the things I was taught too back in Morley was that you don't have to go to ceremony to learn your culture. That's one way to learn it, but it's the act of living. It's living in a good way. That's the way you practice your culture. And as I was driving here, I started to think about that. What does that really mean? Because I know lots of elders say that, and that's what's in the literature. But it really means, it's like walk your talk. Don't just talk your talk. If you're going to practice kindness, how do you practice that? If you're going to practice honesty, how do you practice that? It's not just saying the word, oh, I'm honest, or oh, I can be kind. You can be kind, or you are kind. So that's the difference, like a subtle difference. So, to me, I take those teachings to heart, because that's what the life is about, is putting those teachings into practice. And like for me, I was offered this tobacco, and I had to think lots about what I wanted to say and what was going to be important. And so I said a little prayer and let the spirits guide me to say what needed to be said. And so I hope that what I've shared with you in the short time will be helpful and will give you greater insight into your life, and because it is your life, and there's so many things that can seem like they're negative things, but if we stop and think about it and see, like, we can get through this, we can get through all these things that we're being tested on, because I've come to the point in my life where I see all these things as just little tests to strengthen my character, and to make me want to live life more, because that's what I want to do. I want to live life more. And I like I said, I feel really blessed by the Creator and all the things that He's given me, and all the experiences and all the people that have come and gone into my life, and it just feels really good to be living. And that's my blessings for you, is that you have a good life, and that life is so great, and not a trivial thing to dismiss. Egosani.